All right, here we go. Out with 2017, in with 2018. This time of year causes a lot of stress for people, so I thought I'd just make a quick video about it. Plus, I haven't been in school for like 2 weeks, so nothing to talk about there. This time of year is the time of year when I go to Planet Fitness and I can't get a treadmill because everybody's there all of a sudden for like 3 weeks, and then I have to run next to someone, which is weird, unless I do this one really fun thing where I pretend that I'm racing them and I make my treadmill go faster. But I try and go next to people that I look like I can run faster than, because then they don't make me feel bad about myself. I want to talk a little bit about how I view this time of the year and why I think it's really important. Instead of just having New Year's resolutions every year, what I do is, New Year's is one of those times I build into my schedule so I can reflect on my year as a whole, right? So I do this every year. I like making lists of all of the things that I've accomplished this year and some things that I'm working on for next year. And those lists, I have them. I write a lot of lists. I have tons of these moleskin notebooks. I have tons of random pieces of paper. I have napkins. I have other random various notebooks. Random lists in there, or rainbow that I didn't draw, somebody else has been in my notebook. So sometimes those lists are pretty random looking. Sometimes they're nice and neat in like little columns and stuff like that, so you can go back to it and look at it with ease. Sometimes it looks like bad directions, some kind of mind map thing going on there. Here's the thing. I think New Year's is a time when people put a whole lot of weight on themselves and both beat themselves up for what they did not accomplish this year and put a whole lot of expectations on themselves for what's coming up this year, right? So they go from, I haven't been to the gym in too long, now I'm gonna work out 5 days a week, I'm gonna do, what's that thing on Instagram all the time? Fit Boss? I'm gonna do boss body every single day, I'm not gonna give up. And then what ends up happening is like you overload yourself with all of these things that you want to do, and it is rarely beneficial because something like 99% of people aren't going to go back to the gym after that third week, right? And so I thought I would talk about my process in all of this. I don't beat myself up any less than probably most people do, because I have a whole lot of things I want to accomplish this year. I had a whole lot of things in 2017 that I want to accomplish, and some of those worked out and some of those didn't work out. So here's my process on how I do New Year's resolutions. So one, I write a list. I drive my wife nuts with this stuff because I write huge, long lists. And the idea there is I want to get everything out of my head so that I can have it all on paper. There's something for me about writing stuff down that makes it real. It gets it out of my head and onto a piece of paper because I think a lot. And when I'm not writing those things down, they tend to like escape, or I see a squirrel or a pretty tree, or someone asks for a drink, and now what was I thinking about? I don't even know. Why am I even in this room? Why do I have paper in my hand? I don't know. Taking a moment and writing those things down really helps me get it out. Sometimes I'll set a timer and I'll give myself 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I can't stop writing for 5 or 10 minutes. Every single thing that maybe for New Year's that I would love to see change. Everything in my house. Those nicks in the wall that I want to paint. The transition piece in the floor between looking at right now, between my kitchen and dining room, that thing's been there for like, it's been a long time. And I just keep not fixing. Maybe that will make the list this year, who knows? Painting my bedroom, going to the gym more, trying some new kind of like health stuff this year. Like I want to work on intermittent fasting, and I got this weird breathing thing that I'm gonna do. I love all this stuff because what you're really doing is like you're getting excited about the fact that you can still grow and change. And for me, that's what it is. It's like I'm 41, and the funny thing about 41 is I feel exactly the same as I did when I was 19 in terms of I don't feel like I thought 41 was going to feel like. And I'm excited about trying new stuff, reading new things, learning new things this year, being healthier, being a better teacher, a better dad, a better husband. And so it's fun for me to write all that stuff down and see what I could be. And just that process helps you start to note what's important and what's not. And so that's my second step, is I take this long laundry list of things, like all this stuff, looks like somebody ate that part of the list. And then I break it down and I figure out what is the most important thing to me for this year. Having too many resolutions means you're not going to do any of them for me, right? This is how I work. If I have 10 things I want to work on, that's just not doable. I have to break it down. So like 3, maybe 4 things, and they have to be kind of like fun-size candy bars. Can't go in there with the king-size candy bar. That metaphor is kind of stupid, but you get what I'm going. So the next thing I'll do is I'll break those down and I'll pick like maybe 3 or 4 things that I'm going to do. And then I'm gonna flesh those out a little bit. I can't just have a plan. I can't just say I'm gonna go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm gonna do Boss Body 4 days a week this year. I'm gonna spend more time with my kids. I'm gonna be nicer to my wife. I have to have very specific goals, like what days am I going to go to the gym? What time am I going to the gym? What exercises am I doing? How many reps am I doing? What am I wearing to the gym? Am I going to the gym with someone? And then those become non-negotiables. Last year I started off, I was going to the gym at 5 a.m. every day because I had to be out of the house by 7. I set my clothes out the night before. Everything was already out. I didn't have to wake up and like figure out where stuff was or worry about waking my wife up because it was still dark outside. I listened to the same thing on the way to the gym every day. I had a playlist that I played at the gym. I knew exactly which exercises. I knew how long it took to do them. And I really made it manageable. And those first weeks, it was like, run 1 mile on the treadmill. And if you can't run a mile, run a quarter of a mile, run a tenth of a mile. But every day that I went in, I knew it was first. I got on the treadmill, I hit the start button, and I went for it. Then I knew which exercises I was going to do that day, and maybe I started off with 3, and it was just 1 set, right? And so the idea here is starting so impossibly small. Tim Ferriss talks about this in one of his books, where he says, if you want to start flossing, just floss just your front 2 teeth, and that's it. Every day. What you're doing is you're setting the routine in place, and then once you have the routine, it's easier to build and to scale up once you start it very, very small. So once I flush those out and I know, when I'm gonna work out or what my diet's gonna be, or, if I'm gonna be nicer to my wife, like I can't just say I'm gonna be nicer to my wife. What am I gonna do? Maybe every Friday I'm gonna stop and get flowers. Maybe I plan out once a month we're gonna do a date night, and I'm gonna write those down now. I'm gonna write down what the dates are, what day is the date gonna be on, where am I gonna go this month, next month, in March, whatever it is. And that makes it actually real, and it gives you something to be really excited about. Teachers, if you're a teacher watching this, or you're a student that hopes to be a teacher one day, the funniest thing about teachers is we're already good at planning, right? You can make a unit plan, but you don't just say, I'm going to teach the Scarlet Letter, which I don't think anyone ever got stoked about teaching that book. It's possible, but you pick your book, and then you pick, how long is my unit going to be? 5 weeks, and then you break it down per week. What do you need to accomplish? What happens during those days of the week? And then each day, what happens each day? What is your goal? What are you wanting to get through? And then break it down by time, right? You have to have your pre-class or your starting activity. What's the meat of your lesson? What's your closing activity? What's your exit ticket? All those things are planned out. You're already good at this stuff anyway. But the more detailed and planned you are, the more likely your lesson is going to go off without a hitch. And only after doing it for a long time, then can you kind of like just kick it. And those of you that have been teaching for a while, no, you could just show up this week and just probably teach some stuff and be pretty successful in what you're doing. So act like a first-year teacher when you're going into New Year's resolutions. Plan that stuff step by step by step. I think the other really fun part of New Year's for me is reflecting on my year, right? Nothing helps me to be a happier human being than being grateful for what I have right now. And even if that feels super limited to you, really, if you feel like there's 5 things in the world that bring you happiness, then focusing on those things and writing out a list of all the things that worked out this year. So if I think about the relationships that I've built this year, YouTube has 100% been something that's been really, really great this year. You know, the updates to my classroom, the growth in my children, the relationship that I have with my wife and the way that that's grown over the last year is something that I think helps you to continue to grow as a human being, and in your marriage and in your teaching and in your ability to be a parent or a good pet owner or whatever it is. Being grateful helps you to get excited about what you're also capable of doing next, right? And then on the flip side of that, really breaking down, like, not just beating yourself up for what you didn't do right, but breaking it down, like, well, why didn't that work? Like, I'm not just a piece of crap and I can't do anything, or I'm just lazy. Well, but what are your triggers? Like, what makes you lazy? Are you drinking too much wine the night before and then it's hard to get up in the morning to go to the gym? Possibly. Not saying that ever happens to me, but I might know a guy that looks like me that's happened to. Why did your classroom management not go so well last year? Like, really breaking that down and maybe bringing someone else in to sit with you and help you sift through that information, to help you realize what it is that you did wrong. Because in reality, sometimes we're too close to our own situation to really see it for what it is. You need to bring fresh eyes in and really ask someone that you trust about what they see, because you're just too close to it. I think the last thing I'd say is, before making that New Year's resolution, figure out why it is that you want to do these things anyway. Right? Are you doing it for someone else, for yourself? I think that's a really good determining factor on whether it's a good idea to pursue those things anyway. Are you doing this for your parents? Are you doing it for your spouse? Are you doing it for you? Are you doing it for God? It's up to you to decide that. I think where your motivation comes from plays a big part in whether you're going to be successful or not. So I think in total, and I can only speak for me, right? Like, your process might be different than this. The new year is about reflecting on who I am and why I do the things I do before I figure out what to do next. One of the stories, I am going to share this. I've been debating with my wife whether or not I should share this story, but I'm going to. A number of years ago, I see a spiritual director every month or so. I was telling him about this story that I read one time, and the story, in short, is something like this. It comes from the Desert Fathers, and if you want to look them up, just Google Desert Fathers. But they're these monks that lived in the desert as a way to get closer to God and to be a better version of themselves. There's this story where a young monk goes to this guy named Father Abba and says, "Hey, look, man, this is the Reynolds short version of this story. It sounds a lot nicer if you read it online or something. Hey, I've been trying to be kind of the best me that I can be and really follow God with all of my heart. I fast, I give as much money as I can, I pray all the time, I try and be a kind individual," and has this laundry list of things that he's been doing to try and be the best that he can be. He says, what else can I do? What can I do to help me be better? And Father Abba reaches his hands into the sky, and his hands turn into fire. And he says, why not become fire? Loved that idea, this idea of why not become fire? So I go to my spiritual director and I say, "Rod, what does this mean? What does this story mean?" And Rod says, "I don't know, that's a great story though. You should probably pray about it for a year," which is a totally Rod thing to do, to say go ahead and pray about something for a year. But I did, and so I'd say 6 months or so later, about just kind of mulling this over, and what came out of that completely changed my life, and I'm going to share that with you real quick. I've talked about this in other videos, but I repeat myself a lot in this life. For as long as I can remember, young people have been sort of magnetized towards me. And when I was younger, this really kind of freaked me out, because I would be in a grocery store or at Home Depot, and some kid would come up to me and just start telling me about his day, or what his favorite color was, or why he liked Superman more than Batman. All the time this would happen to me. And as a 16, 19, 25-year-old kid, this freaks you out, because it's like you're just a single dude and little kids are talking to you all the time, and it's like parents look at you kind of weird, and you feel like people are looking at you or judging you because you're at a party and everyone at the kids table wants to kick it with you, and you're not really sure why. As I got older, I became more comfortable with this idea. One of the times that this really became apparent to me, and as a force for good, was my son's playing soccer. I'm the only parent allowed to sit along the sidelines with the team. All the rest of the parents are on the other side of the soccer field. My son's having a hard day emotionally, so I'm allowed to sit over there, and he's sitting on my lap. a little boy comes off the field, this chubby little kid with red hair. He is sweating profusely. He goes up to his dad, who's the assistant coach, and says, "Dad, can you believe it? Look how much I'm sweating. This is awesome." You could see he was just so thrilled because he probably never had that experience before. He's trying to share it with his dad. His dad looks him dead in the eye and says, "I don't care. Get back out on the field and stop talking about how much you're sweating." And you could just see that this kid looked like someone just popped his balloon. He was immediately defeated, head down, shoulders slumped, walks down to the sidelines, and I say, "Hey man, come here for a second." I said, "I noticed you're sweating a lot in this game. That must mean you're working really hard." And he just gets totally inflated, looks at me, he's like, yeah. And so he comes and sits next to me. Oh, my tea's done. Just 1 second. All right, real life called. That's why it's called Real Rap With Reynolds. He sits down next to my son and I, so close that our thighs are like smushed together. And not a few moments later, this other little boy walks past us as well, looks at the three of us sitting there, and just comes over and kind of props his arm up on my shoulder and just posts up like we're just all chilling together now. Now, I don't even know that kid. I don't know what his name was. I've never spoken to him in my life. I didn't know either of those kids. And for a moment, I felt very, very self-conscious that all the other parents are on the other side, and here's these two kids, one with his legs smushed into me, the other one posted up on my shoulder like we're just kicking it on the corner one night, and I'm some dude that no one knows. That moment changed very quickly for me because I realized what it was I just that quickly was able to make a safe place for kids. A place where someone could be excited about a new experience that they were having. Someone else just kind of sensed that in a way and came over to us. It's something that took me a long time it took me a long time to get to that place because I felt very self-conscious. I felt weird that I connected so well with kids, and a lot of times adults and parents want to connect with their kids and they really struggle with it. But I've never been good at basketball. I always played right field. I was a passable student at best. But the one thing I've always kind of just been good at is connecting with kids. And instead of running from that, I decided to be fire. That was what that meant for me. The being fire was that connection with kids. And what if this year you found that thing that you were meant to do, that thing that you were meant, the fire that you were meant to be, and you didn't run from it, you didn't get self-conscious about it, you didn't beat yourself up that you were and wanted so badly to be something else. But you were the thing that you were given to do. And so I share that with you so that when you're thinking about these reflections this year, when you're thinking about this New Year's resolution, what if you were this year the thing that you have been created for, the thing that you were meant to be, the gift that you were given, and stop beating yourself up about all that other crap. It'll just fall into place. I think when we are who we are meant to be, a lot of that other stuff just kind of starts falling in place. That's it. Maybe down below, if you could talk about what are you hoping to do this year? Or if there's something that you're struggling with and you're like, I don't know how to get started on this, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. One of the things that's so awesome about this channel is all of the folks that keep interacting and sharing things with one another down below. To have folks helping each other out and taking a moment to really help somebody else have a good year or a good day or just a good minute. That's it, guys. Thanks. Happy New Year. Peace.